grew up in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, to an Israeli father and an American mother, who was both very rebellious. And I have a brother who's 2 years younger than me, and grew up, I'd say, middle upper class. No real big problems growing up, but one of the things I do remember growing up is always this sort of make mistakes, fall, because that's how you grow and learn mindset. Like it's okay to fall and fail. That's like something from my early childhood days. Like my mom always tried to put me in like nature, and it's okay to get dirty, and it's okay to get injured. It's okay. And it also follows my whole lifeline all the way, throughout my adulthood as well. So anyway, grew up in LA. When I was 9 years old, a good friend of my parents died in a car crash, like just out of nowhere.
Oh, wow.
And that really shook my parents up, that life is really short, and let's not postpone anything we want to do. And they always had this idea, and I didn't know that they always had this idea, but they always had this idea. They wanted to go on a trip around the world for a year and homeschool us for a year, and sort of like experience life without any limitations. Like we have to do it by a certain way. So they packed me and my brother up. Plan was to do a year trip around the world. First stop was Israel. And back then this was 91. 91, Santa Monica. I remember stories like you'll get mugged or killed. Someone wants the Reebok pump shoes or whatever.
Yeah.
And definitely, not take a bus alone or anything like that. And so anyway, we went on this trip. Our first stop was Israel. My dad has obviously family in Israel, and like totally different. I take buses on my own. Me and my brother would take a bus, go somewhere, come back, really independent. TV, there's only like 2 channels. No one really watched TV. It was just like being outside. Like my mom was like in heaven. And so she told my dad, this is the story they tell us. I think it's true, but she told my dad, you can go wherever you want to raise my kids here. And my dad had a business in the US, and I don't know if the dynamic was like everyone was, they both were like fully on board, but it happened. We stayed in Israel. Eventually my dad moved his business to Israel, or closed it and started a new one in Israel. And grew up in Israel, in the Israeli lifestyle, different culture. Growing up in school, it's like as an American 9-year-old, I understood how naive us American 9-year-olds are. Israelis, a lot more, they have more layers of skin.
Yes,
you call it. And I had a relatively easier than my brother upbringing. So like from a social perspective, in the US, I was like more like the popular leader. But when I moved, I didn't know any Hebrew, and I became like the complete follower. Like I remember like the total weird transition becoming really, anyway. And my brother, unfortunately, he sort of like suffered a lot of like bullying and stuff like that growing up in Israel. And anyway, went through school in Israel. I don't know if this is too long for you.
No, this is great. No, this is great because it's a fascinating story, because it's a so dramatic change.
Yeah,
going from the US to Israel and having to adapt to a new culture, new language, new set of behaviors. Kids are like a lot tougher than you, and just a different dynamic. So and then you adapted differently than your brother. It's a very typical, very, and just your different personalities, but then you adapt in a different way. So yeah, please continue. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Anyway, in 91 in Israel, it's this big. There were a few periods in Israeli history where there was a really high volume of inbound immigrants. In 91, 92, 93 was a big Russian immigration.
Interesting.
And me from the US, I was also intertwined in that. And so you go to these like, it's called the Hebrew Ulpan. It's like when you go to learn Hebrew. And so I'd go to learn Hebrew at school with a bunch of other Russian kids. And for some reason, I don't know, I didn't want people to think I was Russian. It was just really weird. I don't know why. I guess it was, and I sort of am embarrassed about that whole time in my life. But I was like, I didn't want people to think I speak English now. So I didn't want to speak English because I didn't want people to think I was speaking Russian. So I really tried hard to learn Hebrew. And, within 3 months, me and my brother all like spoke fluent Hebrew, which makes sense for kids. It's a good age to learn.
But anyway, were you incentivized? You
Yeah,
created that
exactly.
whole situation, created incentive to kind of be engaged and active and do it.
Exactly. Anyway, so grew up there, went to elementary, middle, high school in Tel Aviv in Israel. I also had another brother born 11 years younger than when I was 11. My parents brought another child. I think they were hoping for a girl, but we got another boy, so three brothers, and a whole dynamic of childhood. As a child, I was the older brother. I was always also the biggest of the three of us. That also created a dynamic in the family. And there was something really interesting that happened to me when I was in 11th grade. Because remember, we moved to Israel. I was 9, and I moved from being a popular sort of leader type personality in the U.S. to sort of like a quiet, shy follower in a sense.
Yeah.
Then in 11th grade, I remember going during the summer break to be like an instructor in like a summer camp, and I felt like I was like back into my
You're back.
element, and like I felt it was really easy for me to just be very social and talkative and be sort of like, it was like when I remember telling people that weren't in my close friend environment in high school that I'm a very shy kid. They're like, what? You're shy? No way. There's no chance in hell you're shy. I mean, so it was a really weird transition. So anyway, grew up and finished high school in Tel Aviv. Got drafted into the Israeli military and was in the Navy Academy, and then served in the Navy for 6 years. Another interesting point from my childhood. So I also have this vivid memory and I was probably 12. My brother was 10, and a bully in his class knocked on our door at some point, and I was the one who opened the door, and I froze, and the bully he was just like yelling, and I think he even pushed my brother, and then he went away. But I was so mad at myself for not doing anything. Like, hey, I'm the older brother. I should beat the shit out of this idiot.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the hell, Litan? And so that's still in me, like, that I didn't do that, and I
Yeah.
also think it goes down to my kids now. Hey, God, this is if someone even threatens it, like you beat the shit out of these people. I know not to screw with the family. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, long story short, I also beat up obviously my we had a lot of fight and your brothers fight. And at one point in the military, I called my brother and I apologized for not being a better brother. Which is like this epiphany as well. So military service, learned a lot, changed a lot. Never went back to the sort of shy follower mindset. And then finished the military, traveled 7 months South Central America, which is a very common thing for Israelis to do. Came back, went to school, studied law and business, and worked as a sailing instructor. Had fun, and then founded a company my last year of college, which was in the crazy diamond industry. Built hardware, software for photographing and displaying diamonds in 3D for trading purposes. Scale that, sold it in 2015, made some money, and me and my co-founder just been managing and investing it on our own for the past 10 years, and built another company a few years ago, which was because we had issues managing our own money and we needed a solution for that. So we did that and turned out to be a whole new company, which is what we do today. So that's sort of the initial part was longer, but the end was like shorter. But
but yeah. But I want to go back to the childhood piece. So making that transition, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of dynamics going at the same time. What did your parents? What was your parents' style? Or was your dad involved? Was he like in our we talk in our group, was he like the coach? Was he a spectator dad? Was he present, absent, engaged, disengaged? What was his style?
let me start by saying I love my parents.
Yeah.
And I say that because a lot of what I'm going to say might sound like I don't. I love my parents. Okay. I think they're amazing parents. With that being said, something I learned a term probably 10, 15 years ago that really resonated, which was in psychology, there's a thing called a parenting child. And I found that was so me. So I grew up with this feeling that I was a parent, that I was always doing everything on my own. Like I needed to take care of myself. I needed to take care of my brothers, not because my parents weren't there, just because I come back from the military and I do my own laundry and I do like things that you think that a lot of like it makes sense for college kids, but like in Israel,
Yeah.
usually you come back and you have this like parenting figure. No, we're gonna spoil you. You sit down, do it. We're gonna. I
Yeah.
don't remember ever having that. Whereas my brothers sort of did. So, but my parents really gave me a lot of freedom. I was never got, I never got mad at it if I didn't get good grades. I remember I did, I did sometimes get not scolded, but like sort of like challenged why I wasn't initiating things, but following others. And again, this was like middle school and high school, right? When I was still in my shell.
Yeah.
But my parents were like really supporting, accepting, and giving me this really deep feeling that I can do whatever I put my mind to do. But I don't remember them being these like parenting parents, meaning, being that those that I consult with, those coaches to per se. Till this day, I mean, my wife is like really shocked always that I don't see my parents as the first go-to when I need advice or want to share something amazing that happened to me, whereas she is exactly that way. So it's a different it's a different type of upbringing or my experience from childhood. Not a bad one, just a different one. I think
Yeah.
that it is what shaped me to what I am today, and I'm happy where I'm at today.
What do you think they could have done?
That's a great question. So I'm a big believer in no regrets because I'm happy with where I'm at. So I would not have wanted them to do anything differently because I might have ended up in a different place.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to think about what could they have done differently, because if they have done something differently, I might have not been like I am today.
But take yourself out of it as a consultant, if you will. If you're advising them on how to parent you and your brothers, like, and also think about your other siblings as well, not just you. So how would you coach them to do things differently? Or if you had to go back in time and give them advice, what
So
would that advice
yeah,
be?
maybe this is sort of a little patting my own back, but I sort of feel like me as a parent, if I look at what I do today and what I think my parents should have done with
Yeah.
me, it's more things that I do today where I give my kids this feeling that I can do anything.
Yeah.
Like anything you need me to do, I can do. And that obviously that comes from a lot of feeling of self-confidence that I have and competence, which I think even if you don't have that, I think it's great to show it to your kids because it gives them a lot of confidence in their parents. Because for me,
And the parents' capabilities.
exactly. So for
Okay.
me, and again, I love my parents,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I never had this feeling that my parents are very competent human beings.
Got it.
Um,
Makes sense.
and it might be because, you know, they went through a divorce and they were so, it wasn't a bad divorce, but it was like really bringing us into it.
Got it.
Where I was like, you should not involve your kids in certain aspects of the divorce.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or the feelings that you're feeling. I mean, I'm not saying not share feelings, but I think
Yeah.
there's an extent. Like, I just feel like, and it's not sharing weakness. It's fine to share weakness. I just feel like the competence aspect of it is so
Yeah.
important.
Yes. No, I totally understand that. Yeah, it's fine to be vulnerable with your kids and then in a calm and in a way that you can explain things, but not in a way where you bring more chaos into the situation without a solution. Without a solution.
I think you're measured when you're under stress and
Yeah,
going through
correct.
chaos. And I feel like that is a situation where a parent should do everything in their power not to stress.
Correct.
Keep face
Yes.
when you are going through that stressful situation.
Yeah.
Because that's when people that depend on you need you. And
Yeah.
if they can't in that situation, then that just cracks the
Yeah.
credibility you have in your parents, I think.
It's leadership. It's like, I may not know, I may not have all the answers, but I'm going to figure it out. And you can trust that I'm going to have good judgment. You can trust, that I've got your back. I've got some kind of control. And I think that's kind of like
It's a good point, but the question is when you frame it that way, and I'm not saying I don't agree. I'm always like questioning what the implications of that mean. What does that mean? It means what if you're not a leader, then you can't be a good parent?
No. No, not necessarily, but I think as a parent, you want to have some kind of some level of leadership, just with your kids, and you want to have you want to take that role
Yeah.
you want to take that responsibility as a leader. And I mean, no matter what, you
Yeah.
have to. I mean, you have no choice.
And there's a really interesting dynamic because I think, us as being leaders in our business or in our personal
Yeah,
lives, parenting is similar, but also very different because you must lead together as a
correct.
parent, right? And that, so for example, alignment is super important.
Yes,
And when I think about, I don't think my parents had perfect alignment, or at least even if they did, they didn't show it. You can have misalignment, but you have to show your kids alignment.
correct.
I mean, obviously, that's like playbook. Anyone will say it's not as easy. Everyone knows that, but it's like I
Yes,
think it's so easier to say it than to walk it.
yes.
So yeah,
And it's again, it's just like management 101. Even if you have partners or you have C-suite or whatever, yes, we can disagree, but when we make a decision, we're all aligned on that decision. It's one word. It's one word across the whole
it's also
organization.
it's very military like as well, because in the military you have to show that you're aligned with the orders you received, even if
Yes.
you don't agree with them, because that's how the military works, right? Or
Yeah.
else everything comes crumbling down. You
Yes.
start to question the orders you're receiving.
Yeah. So what are some of the things from your childhood that you're bringing into raising your kids now? What are some of the, things you've learned when you're growing up? What are some of the things that, that you didn't have, you're doing, but also you've experienced that you've implemented?
Yeah. First of all, if I go 30,000 feet, there's a really important and interesting aspect that I keep on thinking about, because I am what I am, because or thanks to the way I was raised.
Yeah.
And even if I don't agree with it, I still reach where I am. And so, you always think, well, I'm going to do it differently. But if I do it differently, then my kids are going to grow up differently than I did. Maybe they're going to end up differently as well.
Yeah.
And an example of that is sort of like, first of all, there's also another dynamic when you have you have a partner and she or he that they have different approaches and they have different challenges. So you also have to leverage that dynamic. But number one, alignment, like that's key. My wife and I will never disagree on something in front of our kids.
That's good.
Like it has to be, if mom said that's going to happen, then that's what's going to happen. And I might go tell her, listen, I think that was a mistake, but not in front of the kids.
Yeah.
It is like, again, it's like, it's so basic,
Yeah.
but also it's hard. But I think that's number one. I think is super important, that alignment aspect of it. Number two, obviously, you can imagine the competence that I feel. I really want my kids to feel.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, right? My wife doesn't have that feeling for herself, and so it's different for her. And so we have to always think about how do we encourage our kids to be more confident in themselves.
Yeah.
So obviously the way we've been doing it is sort of obviously creating internal confidence through some martial arts and sort of doubling down on things that they feel that they're good at, so that makes them feel more confident about themselves.
Yeah.
And there's also a really interesting thing I saw or read, which is the internal confidence is so important because we're in a world of social media where everyone looks for external, what's the word? Sort of
Validation.
like validation. And so I've been trying to implement this with my kids, because when a kid does something good, you congratulate them.
Yeah.
And I heard somewhere, well, don't congratulate them. Ask them, how does it make them feel that they succeeded? So, right, they did a really good job, whatever, put a goal in soccer. Like,
Yeah.
great job, amazing. That's one approach, which I'm not saying
Yeah.
not going to do that as well. But like, all right,
Yeah.
how did it make you feel putting that goal in? Did it make you feel good? Because that's what's important.
Yeah.
Or my eldest is really good at drawing. He'll draw a picture and it'll be really good. He looks for that external validation. Like, you feel it all the time. He looks for it.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying that's amazing, well, how does it make you feel? So again, it's like sort of like fluff and mumbo jumbo. I feel like that's what I also try to add in. And I don't have anything top of my mind that just from my childhood that, I mean, obviously there's the feeling of you can do anything if you put your mind to it, like
Yeah.
the limiting mindset. And so, there's not I can't. It's that I don't. It's not that you can't. It's that you don't want to. Like you can do anything.
Yeah.
Um,
And so now looking back into, if we go further years later in terms of education choices and into your career, when you've made a lot of decisions throughout that period from the military all the way till today, and there's some logic in that, the way you took your path. What did you learn from that, and how would you explain it to your kids or transfer that wisdom to your kids, that reasoning?
so I haven't talked with my kids about that honestly yet. But if I think about it and sort of analyze what I went through, so
Yeah.
again, I've always had this entrepreneurial mindset. And even when I finished the military, traveled, and I didn't have like an idea or business I wanted to build it, I said, all right, I'm going to go to school and study something I think that will help me in business. And I thought that if I go study law, it'll give me the mindset of negotiation, the mindset of understanding sort of like how to maneuver things and stuff like that. And obviously, so I'd study law and business. By the way, my mom was like shocked. Like, why do you want to go be a lawyer? Why are you studying law? I mean, that's not like you. Well, because
Yeah.
as a kid, I might maybe wanted to be like I was really good at drawing as well. I wanted to be maybe an architect or design things, stuff like that. Anyway, so she was really surprised. So she's a Jewish mom who did not want me to be a lawyer, as opposed to a lot of Jewish moms
That's
here.
funny.
And so that's sort of, so I went to study that and worked as a sailing instructor during that period, as I said. And then when my last year of college, I got in at an internship at a law firm, because in Israel you have to go through internship before you take the bar. But I also was in this entrepreneurship program and founded it and was about to start a company. And I went to this law firm and told them, listen, guys, I mean, I have this opportunity to build a company. And I know I'm bailing on you guys last minute, but I really wanted to talk with you before I do that and get your input. And the managing partner there was like, told me this sentence that was really amazing to hear from him. He was like, listen, go do whatever you think you need to do, and our door will always be open to you. And so that was a really cool feedback from this place that basically I was screwing them because now they didn't have an intern.
Yeah.
And we took them to be our law firm as counsel for the company.
Oh, that's awesome.
But that's sort of like and also then like my parents were like, wait, are you sure you want to give up this? Like, but I think if I were to talk to my kids about this journey, it would be, have a plan, but keep your eyes and ears open to opportunities, because they will come up.
Yeah.
When they come up, don't let some predefined plan dictate if you should seize that opportunity or not, because these plans are made to be broken.
Yeah.
If an opportunity comes up, a lot of people talk about luck, right? And I really believe in luck. I think 90% of what I've gone through is thanks to luck.
Yeah.
But then it's 10% in identifying that opportunity, that luck that came around, and then executing on it, right?
Yeah.
Because
so having like pattern recognition, yes, you start out with a plan, but you keep your periphery, eyes open, and you keep an eye on what's happening, and then recognizing when the opportunity shows up.
Yeah. And my parents, back to them, I don't think they ever had a plan, which is a good and bad thing. But they never had a plan. They lived on spontaneity, which again, it gave me this ability to be very spontaneous and accustomed to sort of uncertainty, I guess, and risk taking.
Yeah. Is it like almost like they went too far that way, that you almost like felt like you needed some kind, like I like it, but I want some kind of plan? You brought it back in the middle.
I don't think that I'm the one who brought it back down. I think my wife is the one that sort of brought me back to the middle on that.
Okay.
Especially when kids and money is involved.
Yeah.
It's like you have to. What do you mean you don't have so here's the thing. And this is like a small example. Like my wife's family. She has two older sisters, and her parents, are really calculated, really planned people. They worked for their whole life in basically the same organization. They have a nice retirement, and they're really calculated on like if they gave $1,000 to this daughter. All the two others also get $1,000, and they write it down, because you don't want you can't, you have to have, fairness and all that. And the plan is like, all right, when they get married, each of them gets this amount of money, and when they go to school, each of them gets this amount of money, and each one gets the same exact amount of money. Blah blah blah. All right.
Yeah.
My parents, the total opposite. Like nothing, zero plan, financial, like nothing. It's like on the whim, on the fly, whatever works. Which again, I mean, it's just two extremes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, it's kind of like everything works if you work it kind of situation. If it fits the personality, if it fits the capabilities, yeah, it could work, but also it could backfire. You go either way. But like for you and your kids, so now you have these two, polar opposites. So what do you give your kids? What's kind of like the toolkit, or like what's the philosophy that you give your kids?
So again, I think having a plan and a structure is important to give confidence, with, like I mentioned, that flexibility that it changes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're old enough to feel it.
Yeah.
Even though we do live that way. Like since my kids were, like my eldest is 10.
Yeah.
We've moved every 2 years.
Yeah.
So so they used. I mean, I think that gives a level as well as like you're used to change. With that being said, like we did our family values, the other week again, and that's very being planned and thoughtful of the future. Whereas like we've never had that in our family, or like I save money for my kids every month, and we talked about it, and we talk about finances, and we talk about what it means to plan finance. So there's like all these things that we do that are different, and but I don't. I mean, I'm not gonna. There's no way I'm gonna. If I give that kid that kid's gonna get the same. There's like, it's fluid.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the values and stuff. So what did you guys come up? What are your family values, and what was the process that you got there?
This was actually really interesting. So I found this app. I don't remember it. We can maybe afterwards share in the show notes if you want.
Yeah.
But I found this app that shows you, I think, like 50 values.
Okay.
And I think we share this offline. It's on one of the WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
And then it narrows it down, or I choose the top 15, and then out of the top 15, narrow it down to 10, and then narrow it down to 5. And so I did that for me.
Yeah.
I did that for my wife. Like my wife did it for herself.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks ago, I had each of my older sons do it as for them, each on their own as well.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 values that had 100% overlap. The 4 of us had exactly the same values. Which was family and happiness. And then there were 10 more that, that wasn't 100% overlap. But then I did this cool thing. I took the values, and I'm a big AI. I took it, put it in ChatGPT, and then I had a conversation with ChatGPT. Let's see how these are our values. Help us find 5 values that have some sort of commonality that we can then define as our family values.
Yeah.
And we did that, and it was really cool. So
what did you come up with?
What I come up with? Well, I mean, it's not solidified yet in terms of like I don't have it in writing. I have to find it. Yeah. It's like not top of mind. But hold on, let me see if I can find it here for a sec, really fast. Wait. Oh, here we go. All right, so we have 5 values. The first value is connection. Second is joy. Third is growth. Fourth is well-being, and 5th is integrity. And then each of them has a paragraph, sort of what they mean and why they were chosen, encompassing those 12 values that we have as a family. And when we ran over it as a family, it was like really, on point, really good. And so it was cool doing that. So anyway, that's something that we've never done.
Yeah.
As a family.
And I think that's a great exercise, because I think especially if you do it on a regular basis, and you do it every year, or you review it every 6 months, it gets better and better. That exercise itself, because it makes the kids self-reflective, makes the kids think about it, gives them a period to think about it. And also because you put the seed in their brain, now they see things around the world, in their world that reflect those things, and then they think about it. And so the next time you do that exercise, you'll be way more productive. And I think it just gets better. Same with goal setting. Have you done any goal setting process with the kids?
Not with the kids yet. My wife and I have done sort of long-term goal setting.
Okay.
And we've involved the kids, in terms of like, all right, we want to do whatever 4 camping trips a year, like stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
not deep enough yet. We want to. We should do that.
Yeah. I think the what I find is that like the sooner the better. And even if none of that stuff works, it just makes them think about, oh man, it's hard to achieve things. I have to like really be focused on these things. I could put them on the vision board. I can write them down. But I still have to do things, and I still have to check them every periodically. And yeah, and I mean everybody can write goals. It's hard to actually achieve them. So
Right.
the more reps they have on this exercise of goal setting, the better it is.
So I think I haven't thought about this, but I feel like by mistake, I'm setting them up for that so that we can create the goals. Number one, by daily routines, because in order to achieve a goal, you have to have these routines that you follow, you obey to achieve a goal. So
Yeah.
obviously chores and stuff like that is something that it's not easy, but it's something that we've been in sort of like work. Yeah. So they have chores that they do every single day, and they track it. And they're not as resistant to it as they were at the beginning, which is cool. And then the second thing we do, and we might have talked about this, is the self-affirmations. We do every evening self-affirmations, and they've added their own as well to the list. And it was really there was this epiphany, like really cool moment. They were at their cousin's house at a sleepover, and they called me and say, "Hey, Dad, can we do self-affirmations together?"
That's cool.
It's really cool. And so that's also building up to that, because I can achieve this, I can do that, I am this, I am that. So, but I think the next step is sitting with them and creating actual goals.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like at least anything that has to do with finances, they're not like, I remember you mentioned in one of the groups that how your kids are like really like, entrepreneur and doing stuff to make money, and I love it. And I feel like when I talk to my kids about that, every time I talk, I give them an idea, like, Dad, why do you keep on wanting us to make money? And I keep on, no, it's not about that. I want you to feel what it means.
Yeah.
Have an idea and show that you can feel good and make your own money, just so it gives you the confidence that you can achieve it, because it's not that difficult. So I'm still dealing with that, but
yeah. Well, it's the way I frame it for the kids is just there's these little birds that get fed when they're little, but then at some point the mama bird has to teach the little bird how to go get their own worm. So and they have to go and grab the worm themselves. They can't be just looking at it waiting for the worm to jump in their mouth. So that's why I'm teaching you business. Is that's how you go and you're gonna be able to learn.
So then we go into a complicated conversation. My middle son is like, sure, he's going to be like a professional soccer player.
Yes.
And then, well, what happens? What happens if you're not? I mean,
yes. Yeah. So that's what we talk about. We talk about actually that because yes, you want to be a jiu-jitsu black belt, or you want to be a soccer player, or you want to be an actor, or a singer. Those are great hobbies. Those are great second jobs. Those are great. But you want to always have a backup plan. Yes, go pursue it with full force, but always have a backup plan just in case. Even the most successful athletes had to go and learn business and understand how to invest and understand how to make money. So yeah, it is fascinating. I think that's why I think the sooner you have adult conversations with kids, the better, because it just gives them more time to marinate on those ideas. And when you say them, if you wait till you say them at age 12, it's a different impact than you've been saying it since they were 6.
Right. No,
You know
100%.
what I mean?
We started this thing a few years ago where whenever they get, in Israel, most of the time for birthdays and stuff like that, family gives money, doesn't give presents. And so, what we did a few years ago is I tell them this, all right, you're going to deposit the money in the bank. I'm the bank. You're going to have a spreadsheet. Each of you has a spreadsheet, which is your basically your cash flow management. And then you can go in the bank and see how much money you have in the bank. if the money stays in the bank, I'll give you a loan every month. You'll get another $1 for the money staying in the bank that you don't spend it. And if you spend it, you need to track it. You need to write it down that you spent money. If you got more, you add it in, and then you know always how much money you have.
Yeah.
I haven't succeeded with the loan yet. It's not working.
Yeah.
They're still there. Hey, Dad, I have $20. I'm gonna buy a deck of cards to do some magic tricks.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's his money. Like for me to say, hey, listen, you sure you want to do that? Like if that money stays, it can grow to be $50 in a few months, or a few years, or whatever.
Yeah.
Now I want to use it now. I mean, so
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's those the whole kind of the whole aspect. So to me, the way I combat that short term kind of thinking is like by showing them the Warren Buffett graph and teaching them about compounding and and what it means to be at that level of wealth and what it means. So it kind of creates this bigger thing that you can achieve without that small act of compounding. But yeah, it is a battle. It's not, you got to continue.
I think, yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think from a very young age, if you start like dripping it in, it'll get. I had a conversation with one of my cousin's kids last year, and they were talking about going and raking leaves for neighbors. And he was like, well, they're kids that charge $15, $20 to rake leaves. I'm thinking just to charge $5. And that way I'll just be cheaper. I mean, it's not worth more than that. And I'm like, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you charge $30 and then you hire some other kids to do it for 10?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And then you don't have to do the work. Someone else, you just make the difference, the spread. And he's like, wait, that's cheating. I'm like, no, that's business. That is business. That is a definition. Like you find
yes.
So just like that mindset of like understanding that how business works.
Yeah. And also like pricing strategy, so you're going to be the lowest price, therefore you have the lowest margin, therefore you're going to be stuck with, if there's a problem, you're going to lose money, or the whole concept of there's no value in being the second lowest price, so might as well be a high price and then add more value. So if you were to charge 15, what would be the value that how you brand it, how you market it?
I think that's next level.
Those are fun. Yeah, those are fun conversations. Yeah. So you mentioned Israel. What are some of the cultural differences or values that you took? Obviously you started in California, US, and then you went there and you exposed. Now your kids started there and came here, which is different. So what are some of the values from Israel that you want to implement with your kids, or you want your kid to retain, and so forth?
Dude, this is like a whole Pandora's box you're opening. I'm gonna try and keep it short.
Which is unique, and I mean, we don't talk to that many Israelis,
so I think it's known. It's like, this is not me dissing American or anything like that, because I am American, but I feel like the American culture is very individualistic. Which is, basically capitalism, and Israel's the other extreme is very socialistic, which is socialism in a sense.
Yeah.
But if I take it down to the ground level, Israeli kids are educated to care entirely about everyone around them, their friends, and not themselves as much. And an example of that might sound very stupid, but in Israel, in the lower grades, first, second, third, fourth, even fifth grade, when a kid has a birthday, you invite the whole class, or all the boys or all the girls in the class, depending who it is, because you don't want anyone to feel left out. Okay. Which is very like thinking about other people, even though if they're not they might not want to come, but you invite everyone.
Yeah.
Here, it's like you don't, by definition, and this is like third graders, fourth graders. No, you only invite a few people.
Yeah.
And then, it's so crazy because like I was talking with a friend who's here and asking, well, how do you manage it? Like, what do you do? And they say, well, we tell the kid to do it very, very, discreetly, so the other kids don't hear about it. I mean, that is like, in me, the way I see it, that is just one example of how the culture is so different, so difficult obviously there are amazing things that are here. I'm not saying everything's
Yeah,
bad, but
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
really good example of like how you prioritize. Like I've heard the excuse, yeah, well, it's just too expensive to do a party for the whole class or all the boys. Well, then don't do an expensive party. Like that should not be what dictates your
yeah,
values. You should instill these values in your kids that they should care about other people. They are not the only person who's important in this.
yeah,
You don't have. I just feel that that is so uncommon in the U.S. At least from
yeah. That's
what I've been here.
fascinating. Yes.
Because when I ask people about this, everyone
Yeah.
has the same response. No, of course we don't invite the whole class.
Yeah.
Of course you don't
Yes.
invite that doesn't have, no, of course not. And so it's like it's not that people are wrong. That's just like how the culture here is, which is very difficult for me. So like it's really important for us that our
Yeah, that's
kids
fascinating. So what else? Give me another one.
um what else? So again, another example because we're giving an example for kids in
Yeah,
class. So like
yeah, correct.
in Israel, a new kid comes, like the teacher takes it on their responsibility to make sure this kid feels comfortable, talks to the class about it, make sure that the parents are connected and all that. Nothing here, like not like it's like there was maybe a general, hey, did we have a new kid in class, and that's it. But even when we reach out to the teachers here and the counselors and asking for, hey, listen, can we have some help? Can you maybe say, can you talk to the other kids, parents, or what? Give us something.
Yeah,
It's like, sorry, we can't. It's against our policy.
yeah,
And and again, this is only our experience where I live, which is
yeah,
it's a good area. So I expect actually that to be more.
yeah. The
So that's
higher
like
expectation.
it's just again, it's this. I mean, listen, when I think about my kids growing up here and college, for example, like I don't give a shit. If I don't like, honestly, I don't want my kids to go to college. I want my kids to finish high school and go travel. I want them to sort
Yeah,
of experience the world, and hopefully, and this is something me and my wife keep on having. These like lashings, not really lashings, but like these conversations, hard conversations about. Like I want my kids to want to go and serve in the Israeli military. I want them to
yeah,
want to go back. I want them to go serve. I want them to feel like they have this, responsibility that is beyond them. Because we can talk a lot about Israel and we won't talk about Israel. But I'm just saying, like, as a Jew, I have one place in the world where I have a country where I don't have to think about being a Jew,
yeah,
which is Israel. And if Israel stops to exist, I will not have a country. And we already seen what happens when Jews don't have countries. But if I'm a Jew and I'm not contributing at all for that to exist, then I'm being a hypocrite. And so I want my
yeah.
kids to have the same sort of values. Like, all right, listen, we have a country. We need to. So I want them to want to go back.
Got it.
Um,
That's actually really fascinating because it makes, that's something that I always respected about Israel, their whole process of all the kids go to the military at a certain age, and post-military they go travel and find themselves and be adults, and they come back. And that's, I think, to me, that's what makes Israel the most entrepreneurial country in the world. And so I think it's a great system. I love my kids to experience that.
it's a different type of excellence.
Yeah,
Israelis are measured. Their excellence is measured by their military service, not
yeah,
by their grades. In the U.S., you're measured by your grades, your college, whatever what is it called, GPA or
yeah,
SATs or whatever. That's how you're measured as excellence in the school you went to and all that. And I hope it's changing. I was at a dinner the other day and I was heard this guy talk about how his kids are older than mine, but he's like he wants he wants his kids want to be on social media, and he said, well, when you're older you can have social media, but you have to have a GPA of like a high GPA. So connecting the GPA to the access to social media, I'm like, all right, that's exactly excellence. And like I personally I don't care. That's not a value to me. Like
yeah.
high grades is not. It's
Yeah, you can game. It's not a. You can game that system. It's not that much of a value, and the kid has to want it himself, not you want it more for them than they want it for
yeah.
themselves. So let me ask you this: so if one of your kids comes to you today and say, "Hey, Dad, I want to be like you. I want to, build software, or I want to build applications. What should I do? I'm 10 today. What should I do to get to a place where I can build applications like you?"
I don't build applications. I'm not a
Or
coder or a developer, but
you get the point.
yeah, I get the point. I think that there are two soft skills, and there's a lot of hard skills that you can do. The two soft skills, I think, number one is, and we didn't talk about this, but is being very curious. Like that is, I feel like that is like a common denominator between all of my friends that are really great founders. You're always curious.
Yeah.
How things work, how to solve this, why does it work that way? It doesn't make, that's being curious, and it's so important. And number two is being sort of okay with taking risks.
Yeah.
So those are like two soft skills. Like you just have to enforce that it's good and it's okay to be that way.
Yeah.
The more hard skills are obviously being comfortable around technology, especially, when their future AI is going to be such, it's like the internet, only bigger in my mind. Like, and we have these conversations, like if you don't know how to use the simplest thing, which is like ChatGPT, it's like not knowing how to use Google in my mind. It's like it should be such a second nature.
Yeah.
So an example of that is like, I mean, we'll have like ChatGPT is a big part of our lives at the moment. Like my kids engage with AI all the time. And we'll drive in the car and my soccer player kid is like, he knows anything you want to know about soccer. And so we'll just have ChatGPT open. Hey, ask ChatGPT to trivia. Give us like trivia questions about soccer. It's so that, or my eldest will ask, hey, give me an idea of something like, I like to draw this and this. Give me an idea of something to draw, or let's play a game, or like just like having that technology around.
Yeah.
I also we bought like for one of the birthdays we bought one of them a 3D printer, sort of like to get more into creating things.
Yeah.
From the curiosity, imagination through actually building something.
Are they using it? I was thinking about actually getting one for Jack. Are they actually taking advantage of it?
It's a learning curve. I mean, listen, I taught myself sort of like the design 3D stuff.
Yeah.
Years ago, my last company.
Yeah.
So I have this basic understanding. It's hard. It's like complex to design things.
Okay. It's like a CAD file.
It's like a CAD or whatever. It's SketchUp or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've explained it just even explaining the fundamentals of it and then diving in slowly.
Yeah.
You need to have patience as a kid and as the adult. But I think it's really, they can learn it.
Because they have a lot of ability to download designs. They can, if they can
so download designs and printing it is easy. That's like that's a no-brainer. I'm more talking about the actual designing process of it.
Themselves. Yeah.
Which again, I found that should not be the first step. The first step is like you mentioned, just like find things you want to print.
Yeah.
Let's download it and then see how it works. And by the way, there's a lot of interesting things there, because when you download things, now you have to think about, can this be printed? Does it need supports? Because and so I found that that's a
and then you could tweak things, and then you can find what other people are creating, and then how can you combine this and that, and then build some of the things you have to make multiple parts to it, and how do they fit together. I thought it would be a great tool for them. I wasn't sure. Sometimes with these things, people buy stuff and then it just sits there. It doesn't really get used that much. So I never
listen. There's no doubt it's not used as much as they wanted to, but it's in our face. We use it, I'd say, once a week.
That's good. Okay. Now go back to my question. So now your son is 10. He's asking you, how do I get there? How do I do this? How do I build a software company? Yes. Let me simplify the question. So now you're talking to your 10-year-old.
Yeah. So first of all, let's find a problem that someone has.
Okay.
That we think is inefficient. It doesn't make any sense to have that problem, and they're still doing it in a very manual, old-fashioned type of way.
Okay.
So the first step one is let's identify the problems. After all right, let's just take an example. I forget. Like I did this exercise a few months ago. I don't remember what it was about. But we found a problem, and then all right, now what's out there that's solving this problem? Like. Let's just say I don't have a good example coming to mind. I have a blackout. But it's all right. What things out there have been built to solve this problem, and why they're not good enough?
Yeah.
And then we'll list a list of like companies or products or things that have tried to solve this that solve this problem. But we don't think they're good enough. And then all right, let's think about a solution that can be better. Now, I always go back to like what I've built and show them and keep on reminding them, this is the problem that was in the market for the diamonds or for the wealth management, the money management.
Yeah.
This is what's out there, and this is what we do, why it's different and why it helps, and it just opens their mind. Again, it's like a work in progress. It's not, they're not coming to me every day with, hey, what about this problem? What about that solution? And let's do this.
So let's say, so the kid says, okay, I got a problem I figured it out. I know, the problem I want to solve. So what do I do next?
All right. So once you have the problem you want to solve, hold on. But it's then, what are the solutions? Why aren't they good enough? All right. I have a solution. Now I want to build a solution. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
All right. Now I don't go easy. It's like, I don't go directly to building a solution, because I think that's a mistake, even in business, to build a solution. All right. So you have this hypothesis, problem, solution, and why the solution is better. Now let's go out and test it. Test that the problem really exists. So let's ask your friends.
Yeah.
I want you to come back with like 10 answers of why they think this is what, if they have this problem or don't, and what they're using to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And then if they had a solution, what do they think about the solution? So like, it's sort of like the market research phase of it.
Yeah.
Where, I think in most businesses people overlook, which is super important. And here I always emphasize, you don't want to get into paralysis analysis. You do the research, and at some point you define, all right, this is good enough. All right, cool. Do we like together? Do we feel this is good enough? All right, now let's go to the next phase. The next phase is, let's build a prototype. How do we build a prototype? Well, it depends what we're trying to build. If it's hardware, if it's software, if it's a service that doesn't require anything, which is, I think, the best way to go, where you don't have to build anything, you just a service.
Yeah.
For example, raking leaves, shoveling snow. Like, why is that? Because there's a problem. People have, snow in their driveways. There are a bunch of solutions. Why are they bad? Because they're freaking expensive. They take time.
Yeah.
You have to coordinate. Let's do a solution where we gather a bunch of kids and we do it ourselves. All right, let's go do. So that's like a, problem, solution, and execution side of it.
Yeah. So what's next?
After the solution?
Yeah.
Let's go. You go there. Let's go create a flyer and go hand it out to people and decide on a price for that flyer, price the market and see where we're at. I haven't gotten that far with my kids.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I just think yell out now, but I haven't gotten that far.
Yeah.
I've tried, but not yet.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think it's a good exercise to go with them, to kind of like, to sometimes just trigger it based on their interests. Like, one of your kids is into soccer, so there's probably something he wants to solve within soccer, and whether it is having all the information about soccer players in one place, or following your team. Or I was talking to a friend who likes cricket, and he likes to, and it's very hard to be in a league, the guys leagues here, because the cricket league is in India, and you can't access the content, and you cannot bet, or you cannot create a fantasy league on their systems over there in India, and there are none here in the US. So he wants to create like a fantasy league tool here in the US, but then he needs access to the scores and to the data from over there. So we're literally talking, and I said, why don't you just have someone over there looking at the app and just like bringing you the data from that one app to your app. You know what I mean? So instead of trying to get an API into what the league does, just go to the app that's already in India and grab the data from there into your thing. So there are a lot of problems all over the place, and I think that's one of the exercise with the kids, is to get them to look for problems and just be on the lookout, be problem hunters, if you will.
100%. It's funny when you start, everything suddenly seems, it just opens this like faucet.
Yes.
I remember when you're in this ideation mode, when you start to look for problems, there's just more of them come. It's like the red car, the red dress, the red car, like that analogy, right?
And I think the aspect of the process of like the MVP, and then going doing market research and finding out if someone would pay for it, it's very similar to the Ikigai concept, where what career do I go into, what do I want to do with my life, I want to find something that I like, something that I'm good at, something that the world needs, something that the world will pay for. And so all these kind of like elements, the ikigai for a person is the same as the ikigai for a product or a solution. You know what I mean? Does the world needs this thing? Do they want to pay for it? Is that something that I like to do? Is it something that I can do? And it's literally kind of same. And if when you do that with the kids and they start seeing the pattern between this and that, then okay, then I'm going to focus my energy towards something that I like, something that I'm good at, something that the world needs, and something that people will pay me for, that the world will pay for. Because there are a lot of things that the world needs, but no one will pay for it.
That's true.
And that creates that kind of like a framework for them to decide what to go into.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Cool, man. Well, I'm when my kids start thinking about SaaS product, I'm gonna I'm gonna make sure.
Wait, so your daughter is now doing the UX, right? The graphic
Yes,
design, and your
yeah.
son is also doing
She's
something.
doing video
Okay.
content, video editing, video content editing. Yeah. So I'm trying to get her to get to a level where she can sell to other to have other clients other than me. And then once she does that, then she'll start hiring her own editors and stuff. So I
Is
just
she
want to get her through that
is
process.
she editing this one? She can edit this video.
Yeah, she will edit this video. She'll put the thumbnail. She'll do everything.
Yeah, that sounds like a good business, man. Maybe I'll send her our videos as well.
Right? It's good business. Yes, there's a lot of content being created, and there's a lot of need, and people are
Yeah.
willing to pay.
Yeah.
So they just want quality, they want consistency, they want speed. That's what we talk about. It's like quality, consistency, and speed. And if you can deliver those three, people will pay, and probably they'll pay you even more if you brand yourself as this, young and up and coming, 11-year-old that wants to
100%.
dominate the podcast scene.
I love it. I love it, man.